Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is a 259th Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I've put onto YouTube. This battle was supplied by Brotherhood member Uther. Now, just to say, in this particular battle, you'll notice there are some changes in the rules, as you'll see by looking at a couple of the factions here. About 6 or 7 years ago, when this battle was fought, the Brotherhood clan and the Greeks clan tried to bring in some additional rules to the 31k game to try and encourage more factions onto the 31k battlefield. So, for instance, as you know, we've got a 6 cav max, but we increase that for Parthia, Armenia and Scythia to 10 cavalry max. And Pontus and Seleucid and Egypt and the Brits, we increased them to 8 cav max, so they could bring 8 chariots if they wanted to. It was all about trying to introduce new factions to the 31k battlefield. Okay, the team I'm in today consists of Brotherhood member Uther, who's bought the Rome Julio faction. Now, I'd just like to draw your attention to Uther's only got 11 infantry. A low number of infantry for the 31k battlefield, but also he's bought the old school armoured general there, armoured cavalry general. And if you notice that general is fully upgraded. As you say, about 9, 10, 11 years ago, we all used to bring the Roman armoured cavalry general, but I'd say about 8 or 9 years ago, we changed to infantry general. So it's nice to see Uther bringing an old school general to this battle. As I say, this battle was fought approximately 6 to 7 years ago, and was fought under the GBH rules. That's Greeks Brotherhood rules there. Our next teammate is Brotherhood member Talos. A lot of you remember Talos, very good player and very well liked in the RTW lobby. And he's bought the Rome Julio faction. And then our third teammate is Brotherhood member TR, who has bought the Seleucid faction. TR was always very good with the pike factions, and I'm sure in this battle there will be no exceptions to that. And I have unusually bought the Scythia faction. You don't often see the Scythia faction on the 31k battlefield. In fact, you probably don't see the Scythia faction used very much at all. But as I say, we're using the GBH rules here, so it'll be interesting to see how well this army does as the battle unfolds. Hope you enjoy this GBH battle. Okay, at this stage of the battle, I thought we'd have a look at my GBH Greeks Brotherhood rules Scythia army here. As you can see, Scythia's infantry are these axemen. Now, these axemen have got pretty poor morale and their specifications are not very good, but they're actually the best infantry that Scythia has. So to actually bring them to the battlefield is always a bit of a risk because as I say, their morale and specifications are not that good. And now I've got the chosen archers. Now, these guys have got long range, do a lot of damage, and they're pretty tough. You can actually use them as light infantry when they run out of arrows. They're that tough. And as you can see, I've got about 5 units of them, just to cover my infantry from archer attack. And then we're going to move on to a unit that a lot of you may not have seen before. And if you notice, I've got 10 cavalry units here, as we're under the, as I said, the GBH rules, trying to encourage more factions. And these units are known as the Headhunting Maidens. Now, a lot of you might not have seen these units before, but they're pretty tough. Now, for young ladies like these, they're not as innocent as they may look. If you notice that those axes that they've got there are effective against armor. And before the last patch came into RTW, I used to be able to bring an army of 14 maiden units like this, and they could take out a whole Roman army. A Scorpion King SR and myself used to often fight 2v4s or even 2v6s, and I bring this army of 14 maidens with me. And as I say, they could take out a whole Roman army, but after the last patch they were significantly weakened, and I remember I didn't realise that, and I charged them into the Roman army after that last patch, and they were basically all killed, and it was a bit of a shock to me, and I realised obviously then that the patch had weakened them. So there's my GBH Scythian army. It'd be interesting to see how well it does during the course of the battle, and let's have a look at TR's army here. And an interesting formation he's got. As you can see, he's got a couple of pike units out the front for a bit of pilot shield there. And then if you notice here in this forward formation, can you see he's got legionnaires, silver shield legionnaires in front of his silver shield pikemen. Those legionnaires can obviously throw pilers, and also they can soak up enemy pilers as well there. So that's quite an interesting formation there. Say good defensive formation there, as well as you can turn that into attack. You see you've got some pike units at the back, as well as some more legion units to protect the flanks of that particular formation there. And then of course he's got 4 units of his cataphract cavalry, as we call them, the tanks of the ancient world, because as we said before in other battle videos, they're armoured from head to toe, and used properly these cavalry can be battle winning troops. So that's a pretty effective Seleucid army to me. And as I say, this battle was fought approximately 6 to 7 years ago, and it should be an interesting for you to watch. A bit different. And here is the other team. We have core clan member Cornel Kill. A lot of you remember the core clan, a very old RTW clan. I don't think they've played RTW now for maybe 2 or 3 years, but they were very well respected clan of their time, and I think their leader was First Prime, and their second in command was Danny. A lot of RTW veterans will probably remember those two. And as I say, the core clan, very well respected and old clan. And as you can see, Cornel Kill has bought the Macedon faction there. It looks like he's got about 16 pike units and 3 of the companion cavalry, or the winged horsemen as we sometimes call them, because of the kind of wings they've got on their helmets there. So that's a pretty impressive Macedon army, but no archers, which is unusual. Their next teammate is clan member W.O.T. William, who has bought the Armenia faction. Now straight away you can see that he's got 10 heavy cataphract cavalry. Once again, don't forget we're under the GBH rules here. And he's got 2 horse archers as well. So actually in effect he's got 12 cavalry units there, but under those GBH rules you could bring 10 heavy cavalry, and he's still got the 2 horse archers as well. Remember, these cataphract cavalry, they're also the tanks of the ancient world, armoured from head to toe, and as I say, used properly, these cavalry can be battle winning troops, and this is one reason why I bought my Scythian army there, to try and counter those cavalry. Also you can see the Armenian general has bought the pikeman there, or the spearman if you like, the heavy spearman, very good against cavalry with their anti-cavalry bonus. And also he's bought the legionnaires. Now if you notice, the legionnaires, he's got 8 upgrades on, so that's 2 experience stripes and gold shield, gold attack. So those legionnaires, although their specifications and morale are not that good, with 8 upgrades on each, that should certainly make them quite tough. So there's the Armenian army there. Their third teammate is King's Cataclysm. A lot of you know him as a Brotherhood member, Sacred. He was in the Brotherhood first, and then he moved to King's clan, and then he's come back to the Brotherhood. Although I haven't seen him playing RTW for maybe 2 years now. So that's Cataclysm, or Sacred, as a lot of you know, and he's bought the Rome Brutii faction. And then their fourth teammate is Brotherhood member Cormac, an RTW and Brotherhood veteran, all well respected RTW general. So there's the enemy team there. Looks pretty good to me. And as I say, the battle was fought 6 to 7 years ago under GBH rules. This is the very, very early stage of the battle here, and as you can see, my teammates are forming up as 3 main armies to face the enemy head on, whereas I've got my if you like, custom army at the back there. This army really I only bought to counter the Armenian cavalry and infantry there. As you can see, as we looked at earlier, there's 10 heavy cavalry there, plus 2 horse archer units as well. And that's why I've bought my Scythian army, to try and counter that. Remember, those girls, those headhunting maidens we looked at, are only light cavalry, but they have got a sting in their tail with those effective against armour axes. Okay, let's have a look at Cormac's formation here. Now, can you see that pilot shield unit at the front? I think they do that because they believe that that particular unit at the front is the one that's going to take all the enemy pilots from the enemy pilot shield units, which leaves their other 2 units pretty well unscathed, so they can be used during the course of the battle quite fresh there. So there's a look at the battlefield at the very early stages, and as you can see, Uther's got his general out the front, ready for action. Okay, at this very early stage of the battle, you can see that Cataclysm has brought his Brutii archers out the front of the Macedon infantry there to shoot at our Seleucid ally. But Uther spotted this with his cavalry general. You know what Uther's going to do. He uses that cavalry general extremely effectively and very aggressively there as he charges into those archers. Cause a lot of casualties there. But if you notice that the Macedon general put his pikes down there and I think took out a couple of Uther's cavalry there. But as you can see, Uther's always very aggressive with that general. He kind of harasses and harangues the enemy lines there, trying to disrupt them. And if he sees any soft targets like archers or anything like that, he'll always go for them. And if you notice, he likes riding that cavalry general around the front, hoping to attract archer fire from the enemy, knowing that that unit won't suffer any casualties from arrow fire, but the enemy will just waste their arrows shooting at him. So as I say, he uses that that very good. Right, just pause again for a second. Just let us show you Cornel kills Macedon formation here. Can you see that one end there is butted up against his Brutii ally, so that flank of his pikemen is completely protected. If you notice here, can you see how he's curled round his right flank here? Once again, protecting that right flank as much as he can by turning those units round. Very effective formation, and I think he shows that well. Okay, at this stage of the battle, can you see that the Brutii general has brought his 5 auxiliary archers out to this right flank here? To the enemy's right flank, or our left flank here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to counter those archers with my chosen archers there. The reason he's brought those archers out there is because he'd like to snipe at our Seleucid pike units there. As you know, they are very susceptible to archer fire. Right, can you see the Macedon cavalry general there bringing a unit across to take my archers out? Now, if we're quick enough, we should get our cavalry there to defend my archers. But if you notice, our team's a little bit slow. TR's put an infantry unit in there, a couple of infantry units there to try and counter that Macedon cavalry unit there. But if you notice, we haven't sent any cavalry in there, so we're a bit slow there at kind of countering that that Macedon cavalry attack there. It's cost us a lot of casualties there. But that Macedon cav unit will take a lot of casualties as well, as I'm sure my units will start shooting at it as it moves away. As you can see, it's already down to 41. I think it's 41 men there. And he's still being shot at now, so yeah, he will lose a lot. As you can see, the Armenian units there, the cavalry, and those infantry units, legionary units there, are over there on that flank as well. And if you notice that TR's moved a pike unit out there in quite a wide formation there to try and stop that cavalry unit coming back. But as I say, most of those green auxiliary cavalry there are quite archers there are still intact. So that'd be a challenge against my archers that have just been suffered some casualties there from that cavalry. So okay, so here on the right flank, you can see it's mostly going to be a archer battle there for the time being. If you notice here, Talos has moved his infantry forward. Now the reason he's done that is what I'm thinking here. He's going to throw all his pilers into that front line of those Macedon troops. If you notice that the Macedon general's got no pilot shield unit at the front, so his massed units there are going to take casualties from the pilers that they're going to get hit by. If you notice, Talos here has moved forward towards Sacred's Brutii units there. And you can see over on our far right here, not a lot going on at the moment. Cormac's not moving forward or anything like that, but Uther would be ready for that attack. And if you notice, Uther's got his cavalry on that flank as well, ready to counter any cavalry attack there by the enemy. And I see there's some Armenian pikemen on this flank too. Okay, so at this stage of the battle here, as we said, Talos moves some units forward there to throw loads of pilers into those massed Macedon pike units there. And without any pilot shield units at the front, those pike units are very susceptible to missile damage there and will suffer a lot of casualties. You notice the Armenian general there has sent in a unit into the flank of Talos' infantry line there, and has in fact routed one of his units, and is still pressing into the next unit in along there, that battle line. Very aggressive attacking strategy there by the Armenian general, using those cataphracts in a very tough and, as I say, aggressive manner there. Of course, with the Roman cavalry coming in there, he's decided to withdraw those units, but he would have inflicted a lot of casualties there on Talos' infantry units that were on that particular flank. So there's a general overview there. Can you see that the archer battle is still going on between those Roman auxiliary archers there and my chosen archers? Remember, my chosen archers suffered a lot of casualties from that one Macedon cavalry unit. So it'll be interesting to see if they can neutralise those
Your general has thrown
those
away his
Brutii
wife,
archers
and now
there.
he feeds the carrion birds.
There's a
His
general
men may
overview
soon
of
be
the battle
bird
there.
food too.
As you can see, a lot of our Julii allies have moved forward there, ready to exchange pilots with the enemy. But if you notice on the far right flank, can you see that the enemy blue Scipii army is starting this very strong, aggressive flanking action there, using both his infantry and cavalry, moving around to the right of Uther's infantry. That's a very strong, aggressive attack there by Cormac there. Also backed up by 3 Armenian pikemen there to counter cavalry. If you notice, I bought my Scythian axemen over there to try and help Uther out there. But I know that those axemen, morale's not very good and their specifications not very good. So to use them would be kind of almost like the last throw of the dice, really, because I think they probably possibly rout quite quickly there. But so you can see those 3 Armenian or maybe even 4 Armenian pike units out there on the right there to try and protect Cormac's army from any cavalry hits there. If you notice, Cormac's going further and further round this flank here, trying if he can to get in behind us probably. As I say, nice aggressive initiative attack there by Cormac. If you notice that the enemy Brutii general is attacking the forward units of our red allies there, or Julii allies. And if you notice that Armenian general is charged into the flank of one of Talos' infantry units again, causing another unit to rout. But over here on the left flank, you see that my archer seems to have done quite a good job on those auxiliary Roman archers there. A lot of them have suffered quite heavy casualties. Let's say there's a general overview of the battle as it stands at the moment. I think our main concern at this time is that right flank in action there. If you notice, I've thrown a couple of my Scythian axemen into attacking those couple of Scipio units there. But bearing in mind that these axemen have got no armour, as I say, their morale's pretty low, their specifications are pretty low, so as I say, to throw them in is just basically kind of a, if you like, attack and hope kind of thing with them, even though they've got quite good upgrades. Right, if you notice there was an enemy attack there from cavalry in our centre, routing a lot of our units. As you can see, as I said on the right here, you can see that Cormac, my guess is he will attack quite strongly from that position. He's got his cavalry there as well. You can see a lot of pilers going both ways there. As you can see, as I said, I've got my axemen there fighting the enemy Scipii, and there's an Armenian pike unit in there as well. We know barbarian troops don't do very good against pikes, but as I say, I'm just trying to help out as much as I can on this flank with my infantry, just trying to assist Uther as much as I can. Right, you can see a couple of my infantry units have already routed there, and Cormac's moving his blue Scipii force further and further in on that right flank there. Nice, as I say, nice aggressive thinking there by Cormac. As I say, veteran player of RTW and a veteran player of member of the Brotherhood. Right, just pause again for a second. Look over on our left flank here. You see the archer battle seems to have been won there. Most of the enemy archers are dead. And if you notice, I've got my cavalry there. The main reason I bought this Scythian army was to counter the Armenian cavalry there. So we're facing off there. As I say, the archer battle, the chosen archers have done pretty good against those Roman auxiliary archers there. In the left centre, you can see that the Macedon general and our Seleucid ally there are actually facing each other off, but nobody has actually got into combat there at the moment. Over in our right centre here, you can see that Uther's army is facing a combination of the green Brutii and some Armenian units there. And as I say, over on the right flank here, you can see that Cormac, it looks like he's in an attacking mode there. He's got his cavalry and infantry ready to move in. As I say, there's an Armenian pike unit there coming in against my axemen. So, as I say, things maybe not looking that good for our team, looking at the general look of this battle here. As the enemy have grabbed the initiative with their aggressive attacking tactics here. Lots of cavalry ready to move out. Right, can you see I'm moving my some of my pikemen, some of my axemen away from that Armenian pike unit that's moving towards them. But also, I'd like to draw your attention to all the cavalry that's moved over here, all the enemy cavalry that's moved over here to this right flank. Let's say I'm moving my axemen away from that one Armenian pike unit there. I don't want to take those pike units on head on, but maybe if I can get a couple of my units around the flank or around behind that Armenian unit, we might be able to take it. Might be able to take that unit out. But he's getting a bit isolated as well. He's away from his allies, so its morale will drop. So probably a charge in from the flank would probably possibly rout that unit there. You can see we're charging in. I think Uther's sending another a couple of infantry units in there, and there we've managed to rout that isolated Armenian pike unit there. But as I say, if you look on this right flank, there's loads of enemy cavalry. Looks like they're almost poised to smash in here and try and break our right flank. I think Talos has brought some units over here to try and shore up our right flank with Uther's infantry. Right, can you see that blue Scipii cavalry charging forward, taking out a couple of our Julii allies units there. If you notice, a Macedon general is charging in his cavalry as well, that companion cavalry. And bang, as that cavalry hits. Right, at this stage of the battle on our right flank, can you see a lot of our allies' Julii units are routing. Can you see Uther's charging his cavalry in there to counter that cavalry attack there? But they've done a lot of damage there. Let's just pause the game for a second. As I say, on this right flank here, you can see, as I say, Cormac's infantry and those Armenian units there still fighting. Some of my axemen there and some of our Julii allies' infantry there. As you can see here, the enemy have just charged in cavalry, causing a lot of casualties. Uther's counter-attack there, but I think the enemy cavalry had done the damage already and routed a lot of our units. So as I said, things not looking all that good for us on this flank. And over on the left flank there, you can see that TR with his Seleucid pikemen there is fighting with the Macedon general pikes there. Both the Seleucid and Macedon pikes are the same length, very long pikes, but the Macedon pikemen have got a little bit better specifications than the Seleucid pikemen there. But also I noticed that TR has got some of his legionnaires involved in there too. And he's got his Seleucid cavalry, but you can see there's a big lot of cavalry, enemy cavalry out behind their infantry in the centre there. Probably would like to move over to this right flank, as it seems to me that this is where the enemy attack looks like it's going to come into us here on this on our right flank here. I said the headhunting maidens that we looked at earlier, they're not very good against infantry these days, but pound for pound, I would say cavalry versus cavalry, I think the maidens may well have the edge over any cavalry in the game. And any veterans watching this that have used the headhunting maidens in the past will know how effective they are against other cavalry units. And remember, the more armour that the enemy are wearing, the more effective that those effective against armour axes are. So let's say those cataphracts there are very heavily armoured, so the maidens' axes will be very effective against them here. Right, can you see here on the right flank, the Scipii general has attacked. I've thrown in my axemen there to try and counter that attack. And Uther and Talos have thrown in some infantry as well to try and counter that very aggressive attack there by Cormac on our right flank. But as I say, if you notice there, a lot of enemy cavalry units are out on this flank as well. They look to me like they're just ready and poised to charge in at the right time to rout our entire right flank. So, as I say, both veterans and new players watching this can see that our team is in quite a dire situation here on the right flank. More Brutii cavalry moving over. You can see the Armenian generals using the brute force of his cavalry units are just charging in. Bang, as that cavalry hits. Nice aggressive attack there by the Armenian general. But because they've got infantry out there, as I say, maidens are not very good against infantry, so I don't really want to put them in a situation where they're against infantry. What I really want to do is put those maidens against the enemy cavalry. Right, if you notice, Uther's charging his cavalry in there to counter that charge. There, can you see how I'm moving my maidens out? I'm offering battle to those Armenian cavalry there. Right, just pause the game for a second, take stock of exactly what's happening. Over on the left, over on our left flank here, you can see that TR's Seleucid, pikemen and legionnaires there are fighting with the enemy Macedon general. And if you notice that the enemy Brutii general there's moved some infantry units there to protect the right flank of his Macedon ally. If you notice, I've got some very extremely battle damaged archers there firing arrows into the flank and rear of those Macedon pike units there, trying to help TR out as much as I can there on that flank. And if you notice that TR's got his archer unit there shooting fire arrows into the flank of the Macedon pikemen. And over in our right, in our left centre there, you can see that there's some more Macedon pikemen pushing forward. You've got Uther's infantry and some TR's pike units there as well, trying to hold our left and right centre there, as they seem to have merged quite a lot. So it's as I say, it's very, very much looking, I think, in the enemy's favour there. And over on our right flank here, you can see a lot of the enemy aggressive attacking there is starting to make inroads into our right flank. As I say, I've moved my maidens out here to challenge the Armenian general if he wants to come and fight, and he's got his Brutii cavalry allies in behind, but I don't want to get the maidens tangled up with infantry. Right, if you notice, there's some enemy Scipii units there with their back to my cavalry there, attacking my allies' units and attacking my axemen. Now that could be a good target for the maidens to go into the back of those units, maybe. But as I say, I don't really like getting the maidens tangled in with them with enemy infantry, because they're these days, after that last patch, they're not really that great against enemy infantry. If you notice, the Armenian general's backed his cavalry off. He doesn't want to take my my nice invitation to come and do battle with me with his cavalry there. He's backed them off. He knows the potential toughness of the maidens against his cavalry there. Right, if you notice that Cornell kills, bringing some of his Macedon pikemen over to try and block any attack by me. Right, do you remember those Scipii units I told you about earlier? I'm going to charge my cavalry into the back of them, and bang, as those maidens hit. So that's 10 units of cavalry, 9 headhunting maidens and my general there, just gone into the back of those attacking Scipii units there. I managed to rout a few of those units. Right, can you see the Armenian general's bringing some of his cavalry over there now? Looks like he's ready to kind of attack maybe the rear of my maidens there. But if you notice now, I've pulled my maidens back, so they're going to face him, and he's not too keen. He was quite happy to go into the rear of the maidens there, but he doesn't want to take them head on if he can possibly help it. So that cavalry hit I just put in there routed about 3 or maybe 4 of those attacking enemy Scipii infantry there. Right, once again, I'm going to take my cavalry out to the right flank, clear of any infantry, in a bid to try and entice the enemy cavalry to attack me. Now, bearing in mind, I'm looking at the enemy cavalry, both the Brutii and the Armenian cavalry out there. There's no infantry, not really close to them. So now might be the time for me to attack them. Let me take the battle to those cavalry units. Which is what I'm doing there. Right, you see I'm charging the maidens forward. Just going to stop there, and the Armenian general's decided to attack, knowing that he's got Brutii cavalry in behind him to support him if he needs it. Okay, so we're actually in battle now. You can see that the Brutii cavalry general there is charging his cavalry units in, taking units around the rear of the maidens there to charge into the rear. Plus he's thrown in a couple of infantry units as well. Let's just pause the game for a second. So as you can see here, I've got Brutii cavalry, Armenian cavalry. As I say, the girls have got those effective against armour axes there, which I use very effectively. They got quite good morale and reasonable specifications for light cavalry. But if you notice that the Armenian general's sending infantry units over, we got Brutii infantry units being thrown in, and there's some Macedon pike units coming across as well. So there's a lot of infantry coming in. Remember, I said I wasn't too keen on getting tangled with infantry. I just wanted to fight the enemy cavalry. So with all that infantry coming in there, there could be a problem. As you can see here in our centre units here, you've got Uther facing some very battle damaged Scipii troops, and over there on our left centre, if you like, you've got Macedon and our Seleucid ally in a tangle there. And over here on our far left, can you see you've got enemy Macedon troops and a couple of Armenian cavalry units there threatening TR's flank. So he's moved some of his pikes and cavalry over to counter. As you can see, there's a general overview of the battle as it stands at the moment. But the main thing is, at the moment, the maidens are now in battle, and they're up against a lot of enemy cavalry and enemy infantry. Right, if you notice that Uther sent his cavalry over to support my maidens there, but the maidens still fighting. Now, bearing in mind they're only light cavalry. Okay, so against all that heavy cavalry and infantry, you might expect them to break, but these maidens are pretty tough. Even though that last patch that was brought in about 10 years ago really weakened them, they're still pretty good. If you notice, they're still holding there against both enemy cavalry and infantry there. Nice supporting cavalry attack there by Uther. Helped out quite a lot, took out a lot of the enemy infantry, like I said earlier, that I didn't want to get tangled with. I just want to be able to take on this enemy cavalry. And if you notice there, with the help of Uther, the maidens have managed to take out most of the enemy cavalry. All the Armenian cavalry and I think all the Brutii cavalry that were on that flank have now been taken out. So I say it's a nice combination attack there by Uther and myself there. Let's say those maidens are only light cavalry, but with the effective against armour axes they carry and the reasonable specifications they've got, they are a force to be reckoned with. And that's why that Armenian general didn't really want to take us on head on if he could help it. Okay, let's pause the game for a second. Let's say here on this right flank where the enemy looks so dominant and look like they could be smashing our flank there, I think we've made a small recovery there. With nice combination attacks by Uther and myself. And I think Talos threw some units in as well. But if you notice here in our right centre, the enemy now are bringing reinforcements over to this flank. So things could change. If you notice that TR is holding the line, the centre left and over on the left flank there he's doing extremely well. Against the Macedon pikemen. Remember, those Macedon pikemen have got slightly better specifications than the Seleucid pikemen. So TR is doing extremely well there over on that left flank, and he's still got his cataphract tank cavalry there as well. They're a little bit battle damaged, but they're by and large in pretty good shape. Let's say over on this right flank where the enemy were being so aggressive for such a long time there, I think Uther and myself, with Talos throwing some units in as well, haven't done too bad there. But as I say, I think against any cavalry in the game, the maidens, I think pound for pound, are probably the best, possibly the best cavalry in the game versus any other cavalry. Veterans watching this who have seen the maidens in action will possibly, hopefully, agree with that thought there. As you can see, Uther and myself have routed a lot of enemy units over there, but as we saw earlier, a lot of enemy reinforcements have come over here as well at this time. So let's say this right flank is still a little bit up in the air, but it's the enemy are not so dominant as they were earlier. Can you see that blue Scipii general there? And that's someone I'd like to take out if I could with what's left of my maidens. And that is an infantry unit, and as I say, I don't really like fighting infantry with the maidens there, but I've moved in, caused him quite a few casualties, and have now pulled out. Right, remember that our team are the Red Julii, and if you notice that a lot of our Red Julii units have been routed here now on this flank, and I think most of them was Uther's and a few of them were Talos' units there. So as I say, looking at the enemy green, the Armenians and the Macedon units on this flank, it looks like we possibly have lost this right flank. Although the enemy aren't as dominant as they were earlier. Right, just like to draw your attention to what's happening over here on the left flank. Can you see that TR is surrounding the Macedon units with his pikemen there? TR was always very good with his micromanagement when he handled pikes. A very good pike player there. And if you notice, he surrounded Cornell's Macedon units there with with its units that are coming in from the side. He's got his general stood there to give his units morale. He knows that the morale of Seleucid units are not very good, but he's got his general right by the side of them there, giving them the general morale bonus. So to say, at the moment over here on this left flank, we're doing quite good with his aggressiveness, but over on the right flank here, as I said, you can see a lot of our allies' Julio units are routing. My maidens have been decimated. I've just got extremely battle damaged units left there now. So for all intents and purposes, our right flank after a ferocious fight has now been broken. We've got a few cavalry units left, but as you can see, our right flank is pretty well broken there. You can see Uther going in for the Scipio general there, trying to kill that Scipio general. I charged in a couple of my maiden units as well. They're trying to get that Scipio general. As we know, if we can kill the general, we will lower the morale of his troops. But the Scipio general there did move out the way, just probably about in time. But as I say, our right flank has now basically been broken, apart from a few cavalry units we've got left.
The gods be praised.
But over on the left flank here, TR has just taken out the Macedon general and the Macedon pike units that were there. So basically now this battle's moving into what I would call stage 2, and that is where the enemy has been pretty well victorious on the right and right centre. So they're probably massed their forces there now to take on TR's Seleucid units. If you notice that TR now will probably mass his units. Let's say I've got a few extremely battle damaged cavalry units left. They're so weak now, I'm not sure if they'll be able to play much more part of the battle, except for maybe going into the rear of engaged weak enemy troops. And there's Uther's general's just been taken out. So basically now it is TR's Seleucid units against the enemy Brutii, Macedon and Scipio units. And as I say, it's what I would say is phase 2 of the battle. Okay, so let's have a look here. As you can see, you've got several Brutii units left, and a lot of the Macedon units are left there as well, and some Scipio units. And they're ranged against TR's units there. If you notice, a lot of TR's units are extremely battle damaged, but I notice that his cavalry is pretty well intact. They're not too bad actually, and he put good upgrades on that cavalry too. So maybe those Seleucid tank cavalry might be effective in the end. If you notice that the Armenian cavalry have all been taken out, which is what I wanted to do right from the beginning with my headhunting maidens. Right, can you see TR sending his general forward there to smash into the front of one of those Brutii units, and bang as that cavalry hits. Now remember, that cavalry using alt attack now will be using maces, so those are effective against armor maces there. TR just charged that in, caused a lot of casualties to that unit, and then pulled his general unit back. Nice aggressive attacking move there by TR. As you can see here, the enemy are forming up. The Macedon pikemen, the Brutii and the blue Scipii there are the enemy, and basically all we've got left is TR's Macedon army and a couple of our Julio units left as well there. Right, if you notice that Sacred threw in one of his Brutii units there to attack a very damaged Seleucid unit there. Probably thought that, bearing in mind the morale so low of the Seleucid units there, that if he threw that in, it may well rout that unit. If you notice, he's throwing other units in as well. Let's say, if you notice the Macedon, enemy Macedon pike general there is forming up his pikes. Oh, there's one very battle damaged Armenian cavalry unit left there. That's just been routed. As I say, TR is a very tactical player as well. It wouldn't surprise me if he took units, those legionary units around the rear of those the enemy engaged units there, these two, plus he's got his cavalry unit round behind as well, all to try and get in behind the engaged enemy troops there. Right, can you see one of TR's Seleucid units is just routed there on the onslaught of those Macedon units? But as I say, can you see I think it's Uther and TR sent in two very battle damaged units, then a cavalry unit smashed straight into the back of those engaged Macedon pikemen. Nice aggressive attack in there by TR. Remember, Macedon haven't got very good morale, and I think their general's dead as well, so they haven't even got the general morale bonus there. And as you can see there, I think that's basically all the well, basically all but one of the Macedon pikes have now been taken out. Let's say I noticed TR has been extremely aggressive all the way through this battle here, and using extremely good micromanagement skills with his pikes there. Right, can you see I'm charging some of my battle damage cavalry into the rear of enemy unit there, and bang, as that cavalry hits, managed to rout that unit. And it looks like our team has managed to go on and win this battle there.
Pursue them and drive them from the battlefield.
I see there's one unit of Brutii infantry in Testudo. It's just been broken there by Seleucid's pikemen. So it looks like we've managed to go on and win that. But if you notice, this is a very spread out battle. Right from the left flank here, you can see the amount of dead on the battlefield. You can see where the intensive fighting has taken place from one side of the battlefield to the other by the pile of dead. We move over to the centre a little bit, maybe not so many dead there, but as we move over to the flanks again, you can see really big piles of dead troops there. That, as I say, just goes to show the intensity of this battle. And as you can see, it's a very tough battle. Let's say I got a couple of very battle damaged units left in my Scythian army, but the maidens didn't do too badly in the end against all that enemy cavalry and the infantry that were sent in against them. And it looks like we've managed to go on and win this battle. First thing I'd like to say is really well played for everybody in this game. As I say, this battle was fought approximately 6 to 7 years ago under the GBH rules. And as you can see there, how often do you see Scythia or Armenia on the 31k battlefield? You don't very often. Notice that TR's got over 2,000 kills. Well done to TR for that. And if you notice, Uther, which I believe has got the smallest army on the battlefield, has got the second highest kills in the game as well. So like we said before, maybe it's not the size of the army that you bring, but it's maybe how you use it that you get so many kills to help your team win the battle. So really well done to them. I'd like to say really well done to Cormac, Sacred, WOT William, and Cora Cornell Kill. Really well done to you guys. A really aggressive, well played game by you. Well done to Uther, TR, and Talos as well. Really nice game. As I say, this was fought under the GBH rules, which is something that the Greeks and the Brotherhood bought in to try and encourage more factions onto the 31k battlefield there. And as I say, I hope you enjoyed it. We even looked at bringing Numidia onto 31k battlefield by offering 2 Elis Max to that faction, but not many people took up on it. Let's say not many people liked the GBH rules, but we like to play it now and again for something a bit different. Spartan Commander saying